Detroit Lions. You're number 2 for me, best roster in the NFL. I'll let you start. Why are the Lions at 2?
Yeah, I mean, again, when you're talking about any of these teams at the top 5, I think you're splitting hairs. They're all incredibly good. Lions have an amazing team. Roster's in really good shape. I love what they've done in terms of patching up holes when they've emerged. The one exception is maybe unlike any of these other teams, I think you're looking and saying they have a weakness. And if you're looking at the Lions' weakness, I would think you would say, and now admittedly, it's a secondary player, secondary as in primary, secondary, tertiary, as opposed to the defensive secondary. But they don't have a second edge rusher. And their primary edge rusher is coming back off a gruesome leg break. And we hope that he'll be 100% and he'll look like the same player, but we don't know that yet. So Aidan Hutchinson has been a superstar. Let's hope he continues to be one. Their second edge rusher might be Marcus Davenport, who's basically been a write-off player for the last several years across multiple different teams. Now they're incredibly strong in the interior to offset that. They've been loading up and reloading and bolstering there. I love what they've done in the defensive secondary, in the backfield. Linebacker's good. The offense is amazing. But I think that's the hair that I'm splitting, or that's the nit that I'm picking on this roster is, unlike some of these other teams, I would look at that and say that's not just a question mark. It's a defined weakness.
Yeah. So, I mean, I see the same thing. The interesting one for me is like, if I'm splitting hairs between the Lions, Bills, and the Eagles at the top here, I mean, I would probably make the case that the Bills starting 22 has the fewest holes, I think, off the top of my head. Whereas the Eagles have a couple replacements that we talked about, and the Lions have the edge rush question. I think where the Lions put it over the top for me is the depth outside of edge, the depth and the star power. So you're talking about comparing them to, say, Philly and Buffalo and everything. They don't have the same level of quarterback as the Bills, Ravens, or Chiefs. I think it's
right.
And you'd probably say Goff, step down from Hurts, or, I don't know. I'm not even going to open up the Goff versus Hurts can right now.
They might be in the same category. Goff might be
different ends of the tiers or whatever.
Well, he's like the same, maybe the same category as Hurts, but without that it factor that we just spent 5 minutes breaking down. I don't think anyone really believes that Goff has that, but that might be the difference between him and Hurts.
As I'm saying with the Lions, the star power of Amon-Ra St. Brown, Penei Sewell at right tackle, Aidan Hutchinson, Brian Branch, what Kirby Joseph did at safety last year, Jack Campbell emerging at linebacker. Then in addition to that, all of the depth, right? The fact that, hey, like on paper, not having Carlton Davis this year looks a little bit worse, but they bring in DJ Reed, plus they drafted Terrion Arnold and Ines Rakestraw last year. So I think they've just done an unbelievable job adding all that depth. For the edge rush question, it's a fair one opposite Aidan Hutchinson. Still think they, might explore some moves like they did last year, bringing in Zadarius Smith. But instead of having that next edge, is this the best defensive tackle group in the NFL with Alim McNeil, DJ Reader, Levi and Wuzarike coming back, and then drafting Tyleik Williams in the first round? And so instead of going edge, they just went, hey, we're going to have defensive tackle depth. If we're nitpicking them, right guard, right? We have a question here with Kevin Zeitler moving on, Christian Mahogany likely stepping in at right guard, who played well in limited time, but that's more of an unknown than it's been in the past, where you could really look top to bottom on that offensive line and say this is the best offensive line in the NFL. I still think it's there. I still think it's close. The other factor, if you want to weigh it, is the coordinator question that we've cited throughout the offseason. So it's the same group, but no Aaron Glenn on the defensive side, no Ben Johnson on the offensive side. We saw what happened to the Eagles a couple of years ago, where they had great players, great depth, right? We're raving about what Jalen Hurts does in these clutch situations. Hurts looked lost in the second half of 2023, as did their defense, looked even more lost in Philadelphia because the coordinator situation. So even though I'm looking at this top to bottom saying the roster player for player is the best, the coordinator thing, if it's not a seamless transition, then it won't matter the players that are on the team. But I just think roster depth, star power, everything Detroit has built is the best in the league.
All right, that's enough of that, Steve. Over 50% of the people listening to this are not subscribed right now. So click that button and then we can get back to whatever it is Steve's telling you about. Yeah, the nits to pick, I think, are the second edge spot, as we talked about before. You mentioned Mahogany. I think they've done Mahogany's definitely a potential question mark. I think they drafted Tate Ratledge, one of your guys from Georgia in the draft. So that's a good, backup insulation plan for that. In case that doesn't go well.
He might be
It's
the
also
guy.
worth,
I mean, I think there's legitimate competition there as well. So.
Yeah. It's also worth at least bringing up Terrion Arnold, the former last year's first round pick. Basically got barbecued as a rookie. We liked him a lot, so we still have faith, and he's penciled in to start right now. If he doesn't, he needs to get better though. Like if he plays the same level as he did as a rookie, that's a problem spot as the cornerback number 2 opposite DJ Reed, who they just brought in. Again, they've got some contingency, like you have Ennis Rakestraw, who they also drafted a year ago. So now only one of those guys needs to be good. Or, Amik Robertson, who was playing really well last year, already showed he could step out and become an outside corner when they want him in the slot, really. So they can juggle it and make it work. But, if Arnold doesn't get better in year 2, it's weaker than it looks on paper right now.
The other factor here, too, for me, like if you just list all the receivers, I don't think you're saying this is one of the better groups, but they all just fit so well. Like Jameson Williams has those games where he is just the speed threat that they put him into good situations to use that. They have the great Tim Patrick, actually. So maybe the depth chart is pretty good. But Amon-Ra St. Brown has those games where he's going to make, 10 to 15 catches and almost all for first downs. I mean, look, it's not the best on paper receiving group, but you're never watching Jared Goff and the Lions saying, oh man, they could really use an extra weapon. The depth of the weapons, the way they use them, the speed that they have with Khalif Raymond and Jameson Williams, the slot and inside presence of Amon-Ra and Laporta, they're all used extremely well. So I like so much of what the Lions have done. I mean, the biggest challenge here is going to be the coordinators and then the mental aspect, right? This mental aspect of they're coming off of 2 really good seasons and a season last year where they looked like the best team in the NFL for a big chunk of it, and then had a disappointing run in the playoffs, either in the NFC Championship where they blow a second half lead, or last year where they have all the turnovers and they lose as heavy favorites against Washington in the divisional round at home. So how do they handle the mental aspect of things? But I think when you're looking at the roster top to bottom, this is the best.
Yeah, and I'm going to be so fascinated to see what they get out of Isaac Tisla, the rookie from Arkansas, just because this has been one of the best drafting teams in the NFL since Brad Holmes and Campbell became a thing. And you've got this guy Tisla who was incredibly non-productive in college, in a situation, with some rough quarterback play, but is one of the best athletes in this draft, like 6'4", 215, blew up the combine, crazy athleticism. What do they know that everybody else doesn't? And they went hard after him in terms of trading up. Like they valued him extremely highly in this draft. Maybe they're wrong. Maybe this is where the hubris, they get ahead of themselves. They start huffing their own farts too much, and they're drafting these guys where it's like, look, this is rookie 101, how not to draft. Or maybe this is a case where they knew stuff that everyone else missed, and he's going to end up outperforming that draft position.
It is one of those moves where if a different team made it, would be like, man, what do you do? This is
right.
Bad teams stay bad. You went and got this, no production receiver who's just a size speed projection. But when a team with a recent history of success does it, it's like, what do they know? What do they know? Have they done it again? And they loved him enough to, for the 2 picks.
And I think it's fair to bring that up, right? And I also think that's why the attitude to that pick should not be, oh, it's great because the Lions are great at this, right? It should be I think it's fair to say, I think it's fair to treat them differently, right? I don't think it's hypocrisy to say that if a bad team did that, you'd be like, well, this is why they're bad, right? But if a good team does it, you don't give that answer, but you don't praise it either. Like the correct response, I think, should be, well, this will be interesting to see, right? This is now an interesting draft pick, right? I am willing to give them the benefit of the doubt that this is bad process generally, but you've been good in this area. So let's see, as opposed to as opposed to, well, you've been good in this area, so therefore you can do no wrong, right? I am at least willing to see how this works out, but with the starting point of generally this is not the way you're supposed to do it.
I'm also less likely to criticize a size speed type of move at receiver. You know what I mean? Like if it was for a random guard who was not very good in college and you're like, oh, this is our guy, we have to go get him, I think I'd be more critical of it. But for a speed receiver, like for a guy that's super like fast, explosive, and big, where you can and a team, it's not only a team that has hit on draft picks, it's a team that has used the speed receiver extremely well, right? I think those things are adding up that I'm fascinated to see what Tesla does for the Lions.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.